Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
So tell us about terrestrial energy.
Well, Terrestrial Energy, it's a rather young company, but it's people that have been in this activity for a number of years. We're trying to develop a type of molten salt reactor, one of the one of the 6 Gen 4 reactor designs chosen back in 2002 for further advancement around the world. And our mission can be summed up in saying that we really have been trying to simplify the system as much as possible to make it commercially viable and with as short a development time as possible.
And what are the principal advantages of a molten salt reactor?
Some of the main features come from its safety aspects. These are fluid fuel or liquid fuel. It's a carrier salt, a liquid salt that has the uranium fuel in the salt. That liquid fuel will circulate through a core where it's critical and where the heat is generated, but then moves out of the core and gives its heat to a second coolant salt. The fact that that liquid is always in motion, there's no worry of sort of hot spots in the reactor or maximum fuel pin temperatures, all these things just makes the design so much simpler. And the main aspect is in removing decay heat. Reactors can shut themselves down very readily. They do it on their own. But it's the fact with solid fuels that you have to continually remove that heat by a flow of coolant for days and weeks on end. With a liquid fuel, it can naturally circulate and move that heat around much more effectively. So it gives us very passive techniques to deal with that. And that passive safety, that inherent safety, kind of goes hand in hand with achieving cost innovation.
So where are you in the development cycle?
We're gearing up, hiring more and more folks. Our main mission over the next couple of years is to get into the regulatory process. Our home base is in Canada. We're exploring UK, US, other jurisdictions, but our main focus is in Canada. So we want to enter and pass through the first phase of what's called the vendor design review in Canada. Concurrently firm up the design, the engineering of the product, and also very importantly get much firmer cost engineering. Really be able to prove to the world what this should cost in the long run.
So is Canada a good place to develop this technology?
We really feel it is. Canada has a lot to offer. It's a smaller nation, but sometimes smaller is better, less inertia. That's maybe one of the simplest ways. We like the regulatory process in Canada. It's similar to the UK process, but quite different than the NRC, the US process, where the Canadian and UK is much more performance-based as opposed to very, very concrete rules that one has to follow, and those rules, of course, were developed for light water reactors. Canada's also, we have a long nuclear tradition with the CANDU reactors, but unfortunately they seem to be waning in their development. So we have a pretty large talent pool as well within Canada to hopefully have Canada have another try at a different type of reactor that didn't really get a chance in the early days, and we're trying to give it a chance now.
How receptive are the stakeholders about a 4th generation reactor?
I think there's a lot of interest. The light water reactor fleet and CANDU, heavy water, they've served us well, but there's really only incremental improvements possible. They tend to really only be cost effective, not innovation for sure, at the very large power levels. And they have been engineered to be very safe, but that engineering has come at a great capital cost. And with the events, Fukushima, et cetera, it's a tougher and tougher sell to the public. But for some of the advanced reactors that have just a completely different safety profile, and in a lot of ways also more easily perceived, easily understood by the public, we feel and we've observed that we expect to have a much easier pathway in public opinion, et cetera.
And what is your timeline to market?
We are aiming to, we want to have a demonstration reactor that will be ready to commercialize. We feel the early reactor or reactors made in the United States in the 50s and 60s and proves our concept at the prototype. We want to go right into a demonstration of a commercial unit. The ultimate timeline is 2024 to have that demonstration reactor running.
And is this all technology that is coming out of Canada?
Well, we have much innovation, things that we've filed patent on, of course. It is not a new invention. Molten salt reactors have been around since the 50s, the concept, and a couple test reactors. Like I said, we really want to simplify things, so that's really where we've innovated. But we're trying to use as much proven technology as we can, and I tend to be known as someone that takes advice well. So I have been traveling the world for many years, talking to all the different experts, trying to get a consensus opinion on various aspects of things. And I think we've really sort of pared things down to the best simple design that can reach commercialization.
And what would you say the current landscape for nuclear energy globally is?
I think it's one that it's a pretty gray area. There's so much great need. There's so much great desire to expand nuclear power around the world. But it does come with baggage. That's the simplest way to put it. We have challenges, waste disposal. All producers, all vendors, et cetera, are really paying much more attention to that, the decommissioning of the reactors. And in our design, we feel we have a very good story on that as well. So these problems that are not insolvable by any means, they're pretty simple technical issues, and I think many vendors have very interesting solutions, and we hope to be one of them.
What are your hopes for the molten salt reactor?
To get it built and to prove its cost innovation, and if that is proven, we're very confident of its safety case, its waste profile, all these other things. But if we can prove what is all evidence leading towards dramatically reduced cost, we know that they will then be built in mass numbers to really make a difference. There's some interesting reactor ideas or small or modular reactors. Some things can find a niche use, but the world needs more than niche use. They need a lot of power in the future, clean, secure power.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.